Let's say good morning to our next guest, Superintendent of Schools in Berkeley County, Dr. Ryan Saxe. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming in. You've had a busy couple of weeks. We'll start first. We had Jackie Long, the president of the Board of Education, on last week regarding the situation at Musselman High School with a teacher. And this, I think, is the second incident out of the Musselman system in the last year. There was a middle school teacher there as well who there was an incident, and this has to do with behavior that is inappropriate and with underage children in the school. You acted on it swiftly, put out a press release. In the aftermath of that, can you tell us any additional information?
Well, the first thing is that you're right. As soon as we were made aware of the seriousness of the allegations, we follow our protocols to put people on leave pending the outcome of an investigation, and that's exactly what we did when we learned of the allegations that actually led to the individual being arrested. That person was placed on leave, and the one thing I have to say is the importance of, if you see something, say something. We do a really good job of making sure that as we hire employees in Berkeley County, we do background checks and those types of things. We also do a significant amount of training with our staff as to appropriate protocols for communication and professional boundaries, those types of things. And then, of course, the other thing we invest in is making sure that we're educating people on, if you see something, say something and report it. And in any type of situation where you have an adult that has potentially acted inappropriately, the only way that we can know to address it is if someone tells us. And so working cooperatively with law enforcement and making sure that we hold individuals that take advantage of situations accountable, that's what we're going to do. And it's really important for us to be able to communicate with our families and say, you know what, here's what we knew, here's what we're doing about it to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
If I see something, I suspect something, and I say something, can I then, if it turns out that I was wrong, can I be sued, or is my identity known as the person who falsely accused somebody of doing something inappropriate?
Well, if you saw something that you thought may be inappropriate and you report it, then it's going to be investigated, and I would say that there's limited liability to that because you're not sure. You're reporting it so it can be appropriately investigated. However, if you make false allegations that are inaccurate or state facts that never occurred, that would be fleshed out in an investigation as well. They want, you're going to be interviewed to figure out what is it you knew and how did you know it. And if it's malicious, then absolutely there could be repercussions from that.
I'm going to let, obviously, Bill and Maria, we're going to have questions on this as well. But before we go to that, I want to get another subject in too, and that is the School Building Authority and a $16 million request that was put in by Berkeley County Schools. Can you address the request?
Absolutely. So had the ability to go and speak to the School Building Authority on Monday, where we presented our proposal to, again, partner with the School Building Authority, who's been a fantastic partner with Berkeley County Schools. So in our request, we were asking for additional classrooms to replace the portables at Rosemont Elementary and to also increase the capacity and the facility for the cafeteria, the library, and the media center. Rosemont, just like many of our other schools across the district, are either at or over capacity. And at Rosemont, we're actually over capacity. In fact, this past year, we had third grade students that had to be overflowed to Eagle just because we didn't have enough space. But the portables at Rosemont have been there for more than 20 years. And so keep replacing the Band-Aid to an overcrowding issue doesn't really make much sense. And then on top of that, the school's cafeteria wasn't made for that capacity, so that's why we need to expand it. So that was part of what we shared with the School Building Authority. We also are looking at replacing all of the portables at Hedgesville High School and adding on another wing of classroom space there. again, to address, one, the aging infrastructure of Hedgesville High School, add classroom spaces that are not in portables, and part of that project was also to renovate and modernize the cafeteria space to accommodate more students during lunch and breakfast, and so that was a major portion of the request as well. And so one of the things that is a challenge is that I think the school building authority this year has $43 million to allocate, and $170 million in requests from across the state. And my challenge to the school building authority members is that I recognize that each of them represents certain parts of the state, and to some extent, while they represent the entire state, they're very familiar with the needs of their communities. And across West Virginia, because of the declining enrollment that we see, what you are faced with in many districts is the consolidation of schools because of of lower enrollment. And then, of course, those counties' inability to maintain facilities with roofs and windows and those sort of things. And that's where the primary lion's share of the requests come from. And so my pitch to them is that while you're thinking about the needs of those schools, recognize that in Berkeley County, we not only have aging infrastructure, but we have capacity challenges where we have to add on. And you also recognize that in Berkeley County, we're adding 1,400 to 1,800 homes per year. We're attracting businesses, and businesses want to know the quality of the schools that we have. And if the school systems are not strong with adequate facilities, high quality learning, then it gives pause to that economic development. And so my charge to them is that as you look at Berkeley County and investment in Berkeley County schools, infrastructure, and the needs that we have here, there's a direct correlation to the economic development for the entire state of West Virginia. And so I do hope that resonates with them, because we have more need than just about any other school district in the state of West Virginia as it relates to making sure we can accommodate the students that we have, not necessarily the students that we're losing. And so I think that's an important point.
But if you listened yesterday or day before when I made this pitch, and I questioned and challenged why you're asking me only $16 million when there's $43 or $47 million available now. I guess I have two questions. Question number one is, why do you not reflect exactly what you've said? You have greater needs here. Let's make the request more in line with our needs than to limit it to $16 million. Question number one. Question number two is, with $170 million needs, why is there not more pressure being put on the legislators to release some of the surplus money we're seeing to put it back into the schools? Answer the first question first, where you have more direct control over it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please.
See what I deal with on a regular basis here?
Sorry about that, Ryan.
No, you're good. Listen, you're a hard-hitting guy today, Bill, and I'm going to answer that question.
Would you please answer the first question first?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think those are very important questions, and I'm glad you asked them. I think that when we go and we are competing with 55 other counties, and in this request, really, it's actually, I think, 30 some odd counties that are requesting $170 million. We have to have an application that is competitive and is realistic to what the school building authority can actually allocate. In recent times, I am not aware that the school building authority has ever allocated more than $25 million to any one school district at a given time. And usually when there is that kind of influx, you don't see something for quite some time. And I have learned in my work with the school building authority over the last 8 or 9 years that sometimes getting projects in front of them for their initial feedback so that you can refine it the following year is sometimes a very good strategic move, because they get to see the project over time also. And again, I go back to we really don't have in the Eastern Panhandle fair representation on the school building authority. We had a great we have a great member that is a part of it. Sandy has done a great job representing the Eastern Panhandle, but I will say the rest of the state has, I would say, more representation that takes these things into consideration. And so I think that we have to be very strategic in how we request the funds. Request funds that can be realistic, that they could actually allocate while still sharing the need to help other school districts that are literally having walls crumbling and having to close schools because they're condemned. Those are the types of scenarios that they're facing, and it really does lend itself. I think they want to be able to help us more, but they do have those limited funds, and the legislature has not increased the amount of allocation of the school building authority for over 15 years, maybe longer. And to address your second question, I think you're spot on, and I think that's actually what I've been proposing to members of our legislature, is tie something into the school building authority funding that relates to the budget surpluses we receive. So if the budget surplus hits a certain point, then X amount of dollars goes to the school building authority to address infrastructure in West Virginia's 55 different school districts. But you should prioritize districts that have the highest economic growth as the engine that's supporting West Virginia, to have priority of those surplus dollars. And I think that that's a responsible way to do it. It doesn't overcommit the budgets, the legislature's budget, and it ties it to something that is based upon economic growth. And so you and I are on the same page, and that has been what I have been articulating to those that will listen in the legislature, that I think that this is a good way to help fund the school building authority and to increase its capacity to support all 55 county school districts, especially school districts in the Eastern Panhandle that are seeing unprecedented growth.
Now that Sandy's a magistrate, is she still on the school building authority?
I didn't see her there on Monday, so I'm not quite sure. So I'm not sure how that works.
What the rule is.
Yeah.
I don't know that either.
Maria.
So what do you think, Dr. Saxe, should these other counties that have crumbling infrastructure, that are closing schools, are they looking, and I know this is a kind of a weird question, because do you know what other counties are doing, why they're requesting the money? But are they looking to build new schools and just raise the other ones? I mean, that just doesn't seem very feasible.
What I am aware of in several of our counties that are facing declining enrollments, you're looking at school districts like Barber County. Mm-hmm. Those are not, they're not building new schools. What they're doing is they're because they have schools that are underutilized, they're closing schools and moving elementary schools to high school wings. And so because they're doing that, some of those high school wings or those other schools need to be renovated to accommodate a different population of student than what they're used to serving. So you're going to see, I think, what you are seeing is school districts that are shuttering elementary schools and combining elementary and middle schools into K-8s. You're seeing middle schools shuttering and going into high schools. You're seeing some go and become K-12s. And so when they do that, they're having to tear down old facilities, obviously. But then you also have situations like what occurred in Lincoln County, where Duval PK8 was literally condemned because the wall was separating, and so they ended up having to tear down that school and build a new K8. But the infrastructure there, literally, students had to be bused almost 45 minutes away to the board office for schooling because the school had been condemned. And I think that's part of the issue across the state, where the school building authority has this huge challenge where they have a school system that has to close a school and nowhere to put students. So it's there's a lot of nuances to the challenge, especially when funding is so limited. And these are in counties that a lot of times can't pass school bonds. The challenge of the voters to be able to approve it just doesn't occur, and so the weight is put on the school building authority.
Then there's another part of this equation. That's a school aid fund.
Formula.
Right? Yeah, formula. Thank you. There's a lot of attention been given to that recently. It needs to be overhauled. Mm-hmm. Have you had conversation with the legislators of if it is overhauled, how should it be overhauled?
Yeah. So our board has a list of legislative priorities, and they have been meeting with our delegation of representatives, senators, and our House of Representative leaders, and we've been articulating some of those requests, things to look at. I know that the education chair for the House and the House committee, they have submitted to our superintendent's requests of how can we improve 18, how can we amend Code 18, how can we amend Code 18A, which is around personnel law, to make it better for the red tape that occurs, but also how can we improve the school aid formula to where we have more consistent funding based upon enrollment trends, because we are funded based upon last year's enrollment based upon October 1st, and then of course, if you have a school district such as us where we're growing, we may increase 150, 200 students per year, but our budget is reflected upon the previous year's budget. The same thing occurs for school districts that are literally hemorrhaging students. If Kanawha County or Cabell County or Wood County loses 200 or 300 students each year, those reductions financially have a huge impact to what they can service and the continuity of service that they have to have, because the argument has always been, you may lose 200 students in a school district, or you may gain 200 students in a school district, but you still got to run those buses on the same routes.
Yeah, so the annual adjustment obviously is a point of consideration, but much more so is a trend. And that's what the school aid formula should be addressing, the trend, not as much as the annual adjustment.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think that being able to adjust the trend so that, one, you can have continuity of service. The other thing is recognizing that the trend in public school systems has been, and I would even say it's a trend not just in public school systems, it's a trend in private schools and the whole gamut of education, and that is behaviors of students, especially at an earlier age, and the increase in special education services that have to be required. The school aid formula has never been adjusted to accommodate those challenges. And I think that is something that is very important that we try to look at is making sure that as you identify challenges with behaviors and even with Senate Bill 199, that the accommodations for those students that have behaviors, to remove them from those classroom settings so that they can have appropriate interventions and therapies so that they can handle emotions and regulate better, require us to have very specialized staff that we don't necessarily get allocations for, staff that have prerequisites that are sometimes hard to find because of the competitive nature of attracting those individuals. The school aid formula really needs to be able to address those specific things as well.
Yeah, I've heard, again, secondary, that there's some reluctance by the legislators to address the school aid formula because it's so complex. It's so difficult to make meaningful changes. Have you heard that, or do you have any optimism that it will be meaningfully addressed?
Well, I have not heard that, and I would actually say that I think that one thing has shown itself over the past 10 years, and that is that our members of the legislature are willing to take on tough challenges to address the needs of our state. And the public education system has been one that we've been tackling. I think the Third Grade Success Act, as an example, was a great piece of legislation that brought greater emphasis on making sure that students are reading on grade level by third grade with appropriate supports and interventions, and having ECATs in our classrooms. I mean, they took on that, and I think that from what I have been hearing and the requests that I get, they want to take it on. The complexity is that it is so complex, and so how do you address the school aid formula to where all of the 55 counties will see a benefit to however they address it, as opposed to making a tweak then it hurts the school system. And so I think that it is a complex issue that needs to be addressed, and I think that they're trying to.
Now, before we go, there's a question on our Facebook page I want to ask you about, and it has to do with Potomac Intermediate School. Dr. Saxe, are there plans to address, I'll read it as it's written, the unsafe traffic fiasco created when the access road was put in from Campus Drive to the back of Potomac Intermediate? It's a major safety issue. Are you aware of this?
Well, I know that we continue to have issues on Campus Drive with traffic, and so anytime that something comes up, we have our safety team go out and take an assessment of it. One of the things that we believe will actually help Campus Drive quite significantly is is some turning lanes, as well as a rear exit as well on the backside of Spring Mills High School. And so we are exploring those things. We actually have our engineers taking a look at running cost analysis on those things. Anytime that you're going to do add roadways or changing lanes, and you work with DOH, we're probably talking several $1 million in order to complete a project like that. And it's not that that shies us away, because we want to improve safety. We want to make sure that our families, as they drop students off or pick students up, have easy access that is safe and efficient. And so we are aware of some of those traffic challenges, and we're working diligently to try to see what else we can do to improve traffic flow.
By the way, I heard from Magistrate Sandy Hamilton that said her time on the SBA expired June 30 of this past summer. To her knowledge, nobody has been appointed, but she said I might be wrong on that in regards to replacing her. So I'm not sure what representation we have on the SBA right now from the local area.
Well, I want to say to Mrs. Hamilton, thank you for your service to the School Building Authority and to the students across West Virginia. She made a huge impact for us, and is definitely a friend of Berkeley County Schools, and I want to thank her for her service.
And when I had a bad case of poison ivy, she gave me a wonderful salve to put on it, too.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great.
Dr. Saxe, we're just about out of time. 30 seconds. Final thoughts are yours.
We are very quickly approaching the final recommendation to the board for prioritizing our new schools and renovations to schools to update our CEFP. And so the board will be hearing those proposals on November 12th, if you want to listen in on our workshop. So,
All right, do you know what time that gathering is?
I believe it is at 4 o'clock, but it'll be publicly noticed, so you'll be able to see it. So
All right,
for
very
sure.
good. Thank you, Dr. Saxe.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.